Welcome everyone to our Zoom on scams, how to avoid a scam. Our guest speaker tonight is Mary Bach, and Mary is a longtime independent, nationally recognized consumer advocate. As a volunteer, she is also the chair of the AARP Pennsylvania Consumer Issues Task Force. Former high school teacher, elected Murraysville councilwoman for 4 years, and then elected Franklin Regional School Board member for 8 years. She has numerous television and radio credits, including appearances on The Today Show, Good Morning America, Donahue, Dateline, as well as many segments on local TV programs and talk radio shows. She's been interviewed and quoted in many publications ranging from Good Housekeeping, Business Week, Money Magazine to USA Today, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and Philadelphia Inquirer, among many others. She has keynoted or been featured speaker in a workshop presenter at numerous state, national, and international conferences on a wide variety of consumer issues. She appears monthly on ABC 27's Good Day PA in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and is a volunteer providing fraud watch segments. She is frequent guest on Focusing on Aging Adults on PCN TV. Mary has been on the forefront of telemarketing issues from consumers' perspectives. She is the vice president of Scanning Certification Advisory Board, helping to set industry standards for retail pricing accuracy at checkout. She has had governor's appointments to 4 statewide committees. She was honored in 1999 as the National Consumer of the Year at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., and has also received the Jefferson Award Bronze Medal. In 2004, she was awarded AARP's prestigious Andres Award for the organization's highest honor for community service. Then in 2006, the Pennsylvania Association of Weights and Measures named their annual consumer award after her, the Mary Bach Consumer of the Year Award.
And Jen, I'm not even dead yet.
And you're a dynamo, Mary. I lost my place. But Mary Buck, Consumer of the Year Award for her efforts in promoting marketplace fairness. In 2016, she received the AARP Ethel Award for Community Outreach. In 2018, she was honored by AARP nationally as one of the 12 superstar volunteers and the recipient of the AARP 2018 National Trailblazer Award, and in 2019 was honored with the Westinghouse Shore Lifetime Achievement Award. And in 2025, the awards just keep coming, Mary. She was honored by the Pennsylvania PUC with the Outstanding Community Partner Award and has received other recognitions and honors both locally and statewide. Mary is the mother of 2, grandmother of 4, and she resides in Murraysville, Pennsylvania. So, Mary, we are so thrilled to have you tonight. We're really looking forward to hearing how we can stay out of trouble. And if you're welcome to take the stage.
Thank you so much, Jen. And I just really appreciate the invitation. It's truly my pleasure to be with everybody. And I appreciate those of you who've been able to join us this evening. I've come to wave my red flag against fraud. I want each of you to imagine you are a small fish in a lake surrounded by lots and lots of hooks with tasty morsels on them. Well, actually, that's the way you are every day, because you, the fish, are the person, and the tasty morsels on those hooks are the scammers trying to get your money. And that's what it's all about, money. Scams are not going away. And in fact, they are proliferating. And to each of you, I want to say, don't take the bait. Don't be the fish that goes for the tasty morsel on the hook. Many of the experts that we deal with, the government agencies that track frauds and scams, will say that we are at a crisis level in society. And I want to give you a couple of actual facts and figures. In 2025, The Federal Trade Commission says that in the United States, $196.5 billion was stolen from US consumers. And most of us don't think of billions of dollars in our day to day activities. That actually translates to $538 million every single day. And most of us don't think about millions of dollars in our everyday transactions. So think of it in these terms. That number extrapolates out to $372,000 per minute. Now get your head around that. Some of us might live in a home that's worth that amount of money. $372,000 a minute is stolen from US consumers. Scamming is big business. And again, it is not going away. It's very lucrative. It's very easy to be a scammer. And we should never lose sight of the fact that these people are actually criminals. And it's easy to be a scammer because there are no rules. You make a whole lot of money doing what you're doing, and there's really very little chance that you'll get caught. And a very interesting fact that I just learned last week is that in Cambodia, the country of Cambodia, 50% of their GDP, their gross domestic product, comes from scams. 50%. The government sanctions it. It helps their economy. And it just shows again how huge big business is when it comes to scammers. The online and telephone rackets have become so commonplace that our law enforcement agencies and our protective service agencies simply cannot keep up. They don't have the resources to try to track down all of these scams that are occurring. And as a result, education is key. And that's why it's so important to be sharing this information, to be reaching out to learn this kind of information, because you individually are your own first line of defense against fraud. And I like to say, if you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. And I want you to be able to spot and stop the scams so that you don't lose any of your hard-earned money, because no honest consumer deserves to be in that position. I want you to know and to recognize all of the red flags, because there are just too many of those, too many moments in our everyday lives involving the scams. And the FTC has actually put out 3 points that they think everybody needs to know. These 3 points, if you adhere to them just religiously, will basically cover protecting you from almost all of the frauds and scams that are out there. First of all, you never but never give any kind of money or personal information to anybody who contacts you unexpectedly out of the blue. You don't know this person. You didn't expect to hear from this government agency. There's no reason for them to be contacting you. It's a big surprise. And yet, here they are asking you for your personal information, or telling you that you owe a penalty, a fine, you need to give a payment for something, and it just does not compute. Listen to your inner red flag. The second point is you always need to slow down and check it out. You need to pause, reflect. You don't succumb to pressure. you don't get caught in the emotion of the moment. Scams are not about intelligence, they are about emotion. The scammers do whatever they can to scare us, to earn our trust, to get us to believe whatever it is they are saying to us. And that's why you need to do your own homework. You need to act independently from what you are being told and step away from it. Again, pause and reflect. And the third key is you never, but never give money to someone who says you can only pay in a certain way. They ask for primarily these days gift cards or cryptocurrency. And those are real red flags. Don't ever pay someone who, out of the blue, is saying that you owe money for, again, a fine, a fee, back taxes, your grandchild's in jail or having an emergency, and they say gift cards or cryptocurrency is the way to take care of the situation. Red flag all the way around. Those are the three keys, and those three talking points govern just about any kind of scam that's out there. Most scams are imposter scams, an imposter being someone claiming to be someone they are not. And there are three very broad categories of imposter scams. The first category is government imposter scams. Government imposter scams include the ones that so many of us hear about on a very regular basis. Things about the IRS, a call or a phishing email saying you owe back taxes, those kinds of scams. The Social Security Administration scam saying that your Social Security number has been compromised in some way. It's been found on the internet in an investigation associated with some drug cartel out of Texas. And so, you need to get a new Social Security number, etc. Those are all scams. The jury duty scam, where someone says, you missed jury duty. Well, certainly you should know if you missed jury duty. You would have gotten a letter from the jury administrator, the jury duty administrator in your particular county. It comes U.S. postal mail, old fashioned snail mail. And you, again, would know whether you had gotten called for jury duty or not. The Easy Pass text scams, where you get a text on your smartphone saying that you owe because there was a glitch in Easy Pass. Now, first of all, you know if you got Easy Pass or not. You know if you've been on the turnpike recently or not, and whether you would owe some Easy Pass or turnpike toll that you might not have paid, etc. And so, again, red flag government imposter scams. And the one that I find a bit amusing is the federal grant scam. And I want to tell you a quick story that actually happened to me. I am a creature of habit. And every morning I get up, I read the Post Gazette online, and I am fortunate to live in an area where the Tribune Review is still delivered to my home. So I actually get a paper copy of the Tribune Review on the days that they publish. And so every morning I read the newspaper and I drink my cup of tea. And one morning I was simply sitting at my table, enjoying the newspaper. It was about 9 o'clock and I was still in my nightgown, but that's too much information. And all of a sudden my telephone rang. Now, I get a lot of cold calls from people that I don't know, people who have a problem and they're trying to network. They need to know where they can go to get some answer to whatever concern it is they have. And I'm long on advice. And actually, the local television stations and radio stations have my permission to share my contact information with somebody who has a problem. And so I'm very happy to talk with people, and I answer my phone as a result, even though caller ID may show a name or a number that I don't recognize. So this particular morning, I answered the telephone, and a man's voice, and you could tell that English was not his first language, if you know what I mean. And he said, "Is this Mary Bach?" Well, he didn't say my name quite as clearly as I do, but I acknowledged and said, "Sir, you're correct." And he said, "And you live at 3908 Princess Court." Well, that is my street address. I have lived at that address since 1978, when my husband and I built the home that I'm living in. And so he had my correct name and correct street address. But of course, you can Google somebody's name and find that kind of information. It's all over the internet. And certainly, if you've got an old copy of a phone book, it's very easy to find. So I'm not at all alarmed when somebody has my name and address. And I interrupted him and I said, "Sir, why are you calling me? Why are you asking me these questions?" And he replied, "You have won a federal grant." Well, listen, I can get real excited real fast. So I said, "Oh my goodness, tell me all about it. How much is it for?" He said, "You have won a federal grant for $9,700. Makes my heart pound. Don't we all wish that kind of money would fall from the sky? But I always thought that in order to get a federal grant, you had to apply for it. But obviously, that was not the case here. So I said, "Why was I chosen? How in the world did you pick me? What am I supposed to do with it?" He said, "We're trying to stimulate the US economy, and we selected people at random. We want you to go shopping." Well, that's music to my ears. I happen to love to shop. So he's now told me about the money. And I said, "Well, sir, just send it to me." I said, "I'll be happy to follow your directions. Just go ahead and give me the money." He said, "Wait a minute. We have to verify that you are who you claim to be. And I have some more questions I have to ask you." I said, "Okie dokie." He said, "I have your name and your street address, and you live in Raleigh, North Carolina." And he had a Raleigh, North Carolina zip code. I said, "Sir, you're correct again." I didn't want to hurt his feelings, but Jen has already told you that I'm in Murraysville. So he's now got me living in Raleigh, North Carolina. And he said, "Now I have to verify your age." I said, "A gentleman never asks a lady her age." He said, "If I guess it, will you confirm it?" I said, "Give it a try." He said, "You're 85. I said, "No, too old." "Are you 80? "No, not 80. He said, "How about 75? He evidently only thought he could go down in 5-year increments. And he kept going down. When I would say no, he kept going down, and he hit 60. He said, "How about 60? I said, "Ooh, sounds good." Well, those of you who can see me know that it's been quite a while since I was 60. But now he's got me at age 60 living in Raleigh, North Carolina. And he said, "Do you know where the MoneyGram store is?" Well, I personally have never had to use a MoneyGram. That situation has never touched my life personally. But I know what a MoneyGram is, and I know that you can buy them at various drugstores, supermarkets. They're quite readily available. And I said, "Well, sir, I do know where a MoneyGram store is." He said, "We want you to go to the MoneyGram store and wait for our call." Well, now I've already told you I was in my nightgown, sitting in my kitchen, And I was on the landline that I still have in my home, in my house. He evidently thought that I was tethered to a smartphone like all the teenagers are, but I was not. And if I had gone to the MoneyGram store and waited for his call, he would have been calling my kitchen landline, and I wouldn't have been able to talk to him anyway. So, needless to say, that was the end of that conversation that day. A couple of days later, again, about 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm on my iPad reading the Post Gazette, drinking my cup of tea. I was in a different nightgown, however, and my telephone rang again. And I answered the phone, and a similar but different man's voice said, "Is this Mary Bach?" I said, "Sir, you're correct. And you live at 3908 Princess Court." I said, "Correct again. Why are you calling me?" He said, "You have won a federal grant." I said, "Oh my goodness, tell me all about it. How much is it for?" He said, "You have won a federal grant for $4,300. I said, "Oh my goodness, the gentleman the other day promised me 9,700." And he hung up the phone on me. We as consumers need to be aware and informed. I don't suggest that people egg them on, as I sometimes am prone to do. I'm always afraid that people might give out personal information that they really did not mean to give out to someone. But on the other hand, it can be fun to get them at their own game. And there are just simply too many of these scams going on. The second category of imposter scams, after government imposter scams, are the business imposter scams. And I'm sure many of your lives have been touched by those. You get a call in a utility scam, possibly saying that they're calling from your electric company and you are owed a refund on your bill. Those are very common scams. But then they want you to get your bill and read them your account numbers. Don't ever do that. If it's your utility company calling you, they've already got your account number. They do not need you to tell them what it actually is. Then there are the phishing scams that come via email so often from companies like Best Buy, Amazon, Target, any of the big box stores. And they will tell you that there has been an order placed for a big ticket item, and they give you all of the information, including the amount of money. And it's usually something like a big television set or a computer hookup that's, like $899 or even more. And it is being delivered, and they give you an address, possibly in California or somewhere very far from where you are. And they say, if you did not place this order, and of course you didn't, then you need to contact, and they'll give you a link to click on or give you a toll-free number. Never click on a link in an email of that nature that comes to you. It's going to put a virus or malware on your computer. And if you call the toll-free telephone number, the scammer or their cohorts are going to answer. And they're going to try to get information from you about your credit card number, your bank account number. Don't ever call a toll-free number in a phishing email of that nature that comes to you again cold. If you have for example, an Amazon account, and you're really afraid that maybe your account has been compromised in one of these situations, go to your previous actual Amazon information, call their fraud hotline, or call any toll-free number that you find on paperwork independent from this email that you just got about the delivery in whatever state. There are also lots and lots of phishing scams having to do with things like eBay or PayPal. And social media now is becoming an enemy. More and more seniors are on Facebook, for example. In fact, there are more seniors on Facebook now than young people because the young people have moved on to some of the other apps. And again, Facebook is a way for people to connect. We enjoy talking to our grandchildren or our friends from high school, whenever. Anyway, and so many seniors are on Facebook. But you have to be very careful about the ads on Facebook, about the people trying to friend you on Facebook. And certainly, Facebook Marketplace has become a real hotbed for scams because there are a lot of people claiming to have items for sale and that they get your credit card number or you put down a deposit when in fact it's all bogus. And once your money is gone, it's gone. In addition to the government imposter scams and the business imposter scams, the third category of imposter scams are the so-called friends and family imposter scams. And many of you know about the grandparent scam or the family type scam when you get a call from someone saying that a family member, or maybe the call claims to be from your grandchild himself. And in fact, they need money, they've been arrested, they've had an emergency. And the bottom line again is they need money for something. And they come up with an excuse. And if you say, well, Jimmy, this doesn't sound like you, there's an excuse always. Grandma, I was in an accident. I've broken my nose. I need money. I was arrested in a DUI. I need money for some type of bail bond. Again, there's always an excuse. Every family should have a code word or a family password, something that only family members would probably know. And it might be the vegetable that the toddler spit out every time they tried to eat it when they were 2 years old, or something silly like a vacation spot where everybody in the family just always enjoyed going, something that would be not on Facebook or common knowledge to a criminal that they might find. So every family needs a code word. The good neighbors scam is one that is quite prolific on the internet in the sense that many of us have emails and we have contact lists. And these are situations where somebody's contact list is hacked. And then everybody in that contact list gets the same email. And usually it's something fairly short, almost cryptic. For example, hello, how are you? I've missed seeing you. By the way, do you have an Amazon account? And because you know this person from whom you have gotten this email, you then might be tempted to respond, oh, I'm glad to hear from you. Yes, I have an Amazon account. And then the email person who has sent it, the scammer, says, I am traveling. I'm out of the area. I'm having trouble with my credit card. And I just remembered that it's so and so's birthday. And I promised her that I was going to give her a gift. And I need you, my friend, to go to such and such a store and buy such and such a gift cards and give me the numbers so that I can then give them to her for her birthday. And as soon as I get back to town, and I plan to be back in 3 days, or specifically when, I am going to pay you back in full as soon as I get back. And you know this person. You might actually be very close friends with this person. And you think, well, oh, I can help out. I'd be glad to do that. This kind of scam happens all the time. And so you then buy the gift cards that they're asking for. You share the numbers. Well, as soon as you share the numbers, they empty the cards and your money is gone. It is not from the friend that you thought it was. And my husband and I actually had this happen to one of the Westinghouse executives that my husband worked with. And he sent $400 in Target gift cards to a man or to an email address, a man that he was very close friends with. And after he sent the $400, he then got another email from the person he thought was his friend, a follow-up email saying, I gave her the $400. She is thrilled with the gift cards, but she reminded me that I had promised her $800, not $400. Could you please send $400 more? Well, that's when our friend's red flag went off. And he called me. He was aware of my activities. And he said, Mary, let me tell you what I've done. Let me tell you about the email I got. And is it a scam? I said, did you call your friend? Did you actually pick up the telephone and call him and say, did you send me that email? Are you out of, are you out of town? I said, I bet if you call his house, he may be home, or I bet you'll get his wife or one of his children. And my friend said, I didn't even think of doing that. And in fact, when he called, the man he thought was his friend sending him the email, the man was home. He was not traveling. He had not sent the email. And our friend was out his $400, never to be seen again, because again, when your money is gone, it's gone. And that's why, again, education is so key. People need to know about these kinds of problems and not fall for the situation. I don't want anybody to take the bait. Don't fall for a telephone line, and don't go looking for love in all the wrong places. And romance scams take more money from individuals than any other type of scam. I'm almost embarrassed and disappointed to say that of the reported victims, 83% of them are women. I like to think that women are smarter than that, although it may just be that women report more often because men keep their mouths shut. They're too embarrassed and they simply don't speak up, and they do not report when they've actually been scammed. So be very careful of who you friend on Facebook. If you are looking for love, be very careful about the sites that you use. Even the legitimate match type sites will tell consumers that approximately 1/3 of the profiles on those legitimate sites are actually fake. So if you see somebody that you like, you want to make a relationship or at least befriend them, reverse search their picture. Find out if the name comes up as somebody else somewhere else. Again, there are lots and lots of ways to step back, to be very cautious about new relationships, because romance scams are everywhere and they can be truly, truly devastating because of the emotions involved. People think they're in love. They think they found their forever soulmate, and money is always going to be the bottom line. The scammer is going to ask for money. And again, anytime anybody asks you for money, particularly somebody that you have never met, no matter how much you think you're in love with them, you should never, ever send money, and particularly in the form of gift cards or cryptocurrency. In the romance scam situation, the heart simply overrules the head, and the scammer builds trust and then exploits the victim's hope of a relationship. And this is big business. The scammer might have as many as 50 people on the hook at the same time. One man may be trying to scam 50 women love interests at one time. They never call you by your first name because they don't want to mess up and mistake one person for another. So they always refer to you as babe or sweetie or honey pie or some term of endearment, but not your name. And that's another real red flag. But as I've said before, these scammers are very, very good at what they do. And that's why we have to be educated. We have to be so very, very careful. And I want to warn you before we start taking some questions in a few minutes about several other things. I bet all of you are seeing more and more of these.
Mm-hmm.
It is a QR code, and QR stands for quick response. When you see these black squiggly lines, you do not know what it means. You cannot look at that and know what it is going to do for you or get for you. Be very, very cautious about using QR codes unless you know who has offered it, why it's being offered, and what or how it's going to benefit you. I say be very careful about using anything you don't understand. I don't understand QR codes, and therefore I will not use one. It can cause a virus on your smartphone if it has been tampered with. Don't ever use a QR code in a public place that's posted in some type of public place, even if it's on the dinner table in a restaurant and they tell you, that is, the wait staff tells you that all you have to do is scan the QR code to get the menu. You're better off asking for a paper menu because you have no idea who might have been seated at that restaurant table before you and how they could have tampered with that QR code. We have to be very careful up front in our actions because, as I said earlier, you are your own first line of defense against scams. Another caution is mail theft. There are many of us, and I'm one, that still pay some of our bills, whether it's a utility bill or a credit card bill, with an old-fashioned check. We write a check and we put it in the U.S. postal mail to be received by the company that we're paying. Mail theft has become a very serious crime, and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service is warning everybody about it. If you write checks, make sure that you use only a gel pen, that's GEL, gel ink, to write a check. Because that way, if your check is stolen, then it's much harder for the scammers, for the thieves, the criminals, to wash that check for their own personal use. They steal checks. They use common household chemicals to wash the payee off. They put whatever name they want to put on. And if the amount on your check is high enough, they leave that alone. If it's not, they may try to tamper with that as well. And because it's your check, it's a good check. It's going to clear the bank. You've got the money in your account to pay because you thought you were going to pay whatever bill it was. Well, use a gel ink. It leaves a residue on the check when they try to wash the check. And all they need is something like acetone, which is in common nail polish remover that you can buy at any drugstore or supermarket. And they use that again to wash the check. Again, a caution to you. Be careful also where you mail your mail. If you live in a situation where you have a driveway and the mailbox is at the end of the driveway and you put up your red flag because you've got outgoing mail, be real careful if you're on a through street because a criminal can ride by, see your mailbox with the red flag up, and think, oh, there could be some good stuff in there outgoing. They could steal your mail, and maybe your check is in an envelope to pay that bill. They have now stolen it. They can wash the check. Be careful about putting the red flag up. If you can go to the post office to mail your outgoing mail, it's all the better. But if you need to put it in your mailbox because you know you can't get to the post office, don't put the red flag up. You're going to get junk mail just about every day. And the postman, the mailman, is going to open your box, see your outgoing letter, and take it. And they'll just think, oh, they forgot to put the red flag up, or maybe the wind blew it down or something. So again, how you mail your mail, how you write your check is very, very important. No honest consumer deserves to be cheated in that fashion. And I'll tell you something rather amusing that I discovered. I happen to be an aficionado of musical theater, Broadway musicals. And the 2023 Tony award-winning musical was one called Kimberly Akimbo. And I was actually appalled when I saw Kimberly Akimbo because in that Broadway Tony award-winning musical from 2023, there is a song titled How to Wash a Check. Google it, listen to it. In the Broadway musical, they actually wheeled a blue mailbox, like some of us still have in our neighborhoods, onto the stage. They showed how the criminals fish out or pull out mail from a mailbox in that public space, and then how to go about washing a check. Again, Google it, how to wash a check, and listen. It's a learning experience. And you, like me, I'm sure, will be both surprised and also appalled at what criminality is going on in the world these days. That's low-tech thievery. It's easy for the criminals to do. They can often get away with it. They make money from doing it. And so it will continue. And we have to be especially careful in those circumstances. We as consumers have to be so increasingly aware of the scams that are around us now with artificial intelligence, the idea that they can take our voices or the voices of our children or grandchildren, they can clone them and have a call come into our homes, and it sounds like your grandchild because it is their voice. You know, our young people aren't nearly as careful about some of their activities as we think maybe they should be. And they go on the internet, they go on their social media, and they do all kinds of videos. They post pictures of where they eat and what they eat, and they talk about family members and give detail that possibly they should not be sharing in a public forum. And as a result, the scammers take all of that information, they're able to put it together, and they use it against us. And if we don't stay informed and on top of these kinds of situations, it's really going to come back to haunt us and possibly hurt us. And nobody wants that to happen, or nobody deserves that to happen. So know the red flags, be really careful out there. Again, I don't want anybody to take the bait. And Jen, I thank you so much for having me. If anybody's got a question, if anybody's got a story that's happened to them that they'd like to share, I'm here as long as you'd like, and I'm happy to answer questions or to talk to anybody.